Hi there everybody, and welcome back to the second part of one of Dyslexia Scotland's parent masterclasses. I just explained to you briefly before that we travel around Scotland, myself and a few other trainers, presenting some parent masterclasses to you, but we're bringing it right to your home today as we speak. So let's just have a look at what we're going to be looking at. So there we are, Dyslexia Scotland parent masterclasses. We're going to concentrate today on part 2 of the support that you can provide at home, particularly in the current climate as well. And I think one of the important things to remember when you're supporting at home is that our role is not to completely roll out the whole curriculum while we are supporting our children, but think about giving them as much as we can, as much support as we can in the background to allow them in the future to become independent learners. So we're supporting them in every possible way we can at the moment, and everybody's doing a fantastic job. I think one of the biggest things that we realise as parents, certainly when our children come home from school, is how hard work it is, basically, at the end of the day. And many children with dyslexia work 10 times, if not more, harder than the people sat next to them in their classrooms. And often as they come home, they'll then start to realise that they're tired, we're expecting them to pick up that homework bag, etc. And certainly, again, in the current climate, you may be seeing more and more of this. So the after school hold it all in blowout may be very familiar to you. Going to school, things that are happening that perhaps they've not quite achieved in the way they'd like to achieve. And what actually happens is our children come home totally exhausted and frustrated from the day, but they feel really comfortable to let that go with you. And in some ways, it's quite a compliment for children to want to just let go as soon as they come home. So please don't take it as a bad thing on every occasion. But what this actually can do is it can affect the whole family. The family become quite distressed about what they're seeing, worried, not really understanding as your children disappear to their bedrooms, don't really want to talk to you. So one of the major things that we're going to cover today, and we're going to look at in a second, is supporting that self-esteem when they do finally walk through the door. So we might have a think about perhaps sibling rivalry. Well, you might be helping one child more than you're helping the other at the moment. And those that perhaps don't need as much support could be saying, well, what about me? Why aren't you playing a game with me? Why aren't you helping me? So it causes an awful lot of confusion and perhaps arguments in the house as well. It's really important for us as parents, especially now, to think, well, actually, what is my role? What am I supposed to be helping here? What am I supporting? And one of the most important things to remember as a parent of children who are potentially dyslexic is you will probably know, you will feel that intuition inside. You will see that something doesn't feel quite right. The progress you're seeing and feeling doesn't feel quite right. So if at any stage you have an intuition, an inkling that something isn't going in the way that you planned it to go, then please follow that intuition. Don't wait until the end of primary. Don't wait until the end of secondary to follow your intuition. Start contacting the right people now. Your other role, as I've already mentioned, is to support that self-esteem. It's the all-important part of learning. Unless we've got good self-esteem, it's very difficult to build on that and develop our knowledge and our education as we grow. On the last section, we talked a little bit about learning preferences. So we're going to discuss that again today, and perhaps ways of you identifying your children's learning preferences. A few ways of encouraging and supporting reading and spelling today, a few sort of multisensory ways, and then a few sort of tips, if you like, on how to support the organisation and the homework or the schoolwork that's coming in every day at the moment. Asking for help is a really big deal. Asking for help at home, asking for help in school, especially as children get older. In secondary education, for example, in the classroom, putting your hand up and asking a teacher for help is a really difficult thing for some children to do. It might be because they're embarrassed, they're not quite sure what anybody else is going to say in the room or the other children, or they might even say to you, if you ask them, do you understand? Sometimes the answer is yes, when it actually might be no. So don't always take things on face value. Don't always assume that children understand what you've just gone through. Just repeat it. Go over it again. The repetition is really valuable when we're trying to get things into the long-term memory. So the self-esteem comes from a life of what we feel that we failed at the most things that we've done, when actually we haven't. It is a self-perceived thing and a self-perpetuating feeling that we develop this self-concept of ourselves that we're not doing very well. And we're a bit scared when something new starts. What if we can't do this? What if we don't understand it? Instead of tackling it head on with that confidence. And the self-esteem grows and grows and grows and grows extremely quickly. It can start developing quite early on, as low as nursery. They can start recognizing some things that other children can do that they perhaps can't do. But certainly around the primary 3 stage, when children again can see the disparity between what they're doing at school, what other children are doing at school, and who's achieving what, who's not achieving what. So the self-esteem kicks in really, really quickly, and it becomes a huge slippery slope. You might start to recognize it when you ask them, are you okay? And those words come out, was I'm fine. Well, fine is a terrible word in the English dictionary. Fine means I'm absolutely not fine, and we all know that. Perhaps they might start acting out with you, a bit defensive, a bit argumentative. These are all signs of behaviors that are asking you for help. I'm not really trying to be naughty. I'm not trying to be annoying. I'm actually asking you for help, and I don't know how to. We haven't recognized the low self-esteem in ourselves at this point. So for you to support self-esteem is perhaps one of the biggest areas that you could concentrate on right now. And I know it's difficult. I do understand how difficult all of this is. But to support this self-esteem means that your children will get up and try and tackle things head on instead of being very worried about the things that are coming. I think one of the most important things is understanding yourself to start with, and understanding, holding your brain in your hand and knowing how you actually learn. How do you tackle the new things that are coming to you? And understanding dyslexia itself, and for your children to understand dyslexia, will give them a reason as to why all of these things are happening to them. Raising self-awareness, raising awareness of how they actually learn. So you could do that by researching together. YouTube is full of the most amazing stories, examples, lesson planning, all the things that you need to learn about dyslexia itself. Dyslexia Scotland have some amazing YouTube videos available. There are presentations. Nessie does some great presentations for the younger years to understand about dyslexia. And actually most of our children, in fact all of our children, have got a strength. They will have a success area somewhere. That success may be riding a bike, it may be learning times tables, it may be cooking something, but those successes need to be celebrated because they will build the self-esteem daily. You won't recognize it's happening, but it will build it very, very quickly. And when you're celebrating these successes, use directed praise. So instead of saying, I love the taste of these cookies or these biscuits or this cake that they've just made, you can say, I love the way you followed the recipes so well. I love the fact that you used a particular sugar or flour or whatever it may be. But by pinpointing a particular piece of information, the praise becomes much more realistic to the children. Have some fun, laugh, do lots of things that you enjoy together, and sit and listen. A conversation is worth so much. It means so much to people. Sit and listen. When they're ready to talk to you, when they're ready to explain to you why something is tricky, then sit and listen. It's one of the hardest things to do as a parent, I understand, because we want to find a solution all the time, but sit and listen to them. And one great thing that I've discovered along the way that really, really helps is to demonstrate your own weaknesses. I am clearly not a cook, as you can see there. My beans on toast is as far as I manage most days for everybody in this house. I'm not a cook. My children know that I'm not a cook, and I'm more than happy to demonstrate my weaknesses with people. And perhaps your children can support you in whatever you feel your weaknesses are. That makes them feel good. That gives them the self-esteem and the confidence to carry on. So we spoke a little bit about learning preferences, learning styles. How does your children like to learn? Do they like to listen? Do they like to watch things? Do they like to draw something? But the key here is that if you find that preference of learning, then you can use it in a multisensory way to support the learning and send it to the long-term memory. Let me show you what I mean by that. Now, there are lots and lots of different lots and lots of learning preferences, many that I wouldn't wish to name today. But these three that you can see here, the visual, the auditory, and the kinesthetic, are the three most common, if you like, or the three most obvious, and certainly the most common that we could possibly support at home today. So if you're a visual learner, you like to see pictures. Many people with a dyslexic mind actually sees things in pictures all the time. So if I said to you, for example, now, a pink elephant, would you see a pink elephant running around the room? Or would you see the words pink elephant? Sometimes people see pictures, sometimes people see the words, but many people with dyslexia love to think and do things in pictures. So you might like something like mind mapping, where you use that for story writing or planning something. You might do some of your sounds by drawing in the air or drawing in sand, and that would bring in the kinesthetic kind of element of it. So you're touching things, you've got tactile objects. And then, or you might be an auditory learner. You might like to listen to a story. You might listen to an audiobook. You might learn things from a conversation with somebody or from listening to something on the television. So all of these together give you an area and a direction of the best way to plan and support your study and your learning. So what I'm actually saying to you today is we need to hone in on all these learning preferences, and we need to make this learning come alive. That piece of paper sat on the desk, we need to make it multisensory and make it come alive. And multisensory in its element means exactly that, using as many senses together as you possibly can to make it fun and to make it stick. You remember I said to you about the personalized learning glue yesterday, or in the previous session, I should say. We should try and use that glue using the multisensory styles as much as we can. So we might want to chunk it, we might want to put it into tiny bits, we might want to make it out of plasticine, those letters or that model, connect it with something we've already learned before, we might want to draw it to learn nouns and adjectives, watch it on television, listen to it, but you're getting the point here. We need to make it as multisensory as possible by making that learning jump off the desk and make it into something that we can understand and remember. Talking about reading for a moment before we move on to some more multisensory and spelling elements. Reading is vital in everything that we do. It is something that we can't get away without learning. And it's something that if we practice, you will get better, step by step and day by day. You might see some tiny little steps of progress each day, but just remember that every time you move forward, every day there's progress, those tiny steps will add up to massive strides in the end. So don't ever give up with the reading. And remember at this point as well that dyslexia is different every single day. So what you might find is that one day you would read a word and the next day you might not be able to remember that word. And that's okay. It's okay because when you see it thousands of times and you overlearn it and overread it, it will go to the long-term memory when it's ready. So also you might be reading a book and there's a word on one line and on the very next line that word might be forgotten. And that's okay as well, because we're still trying to identify words by sight. And that takes a long time and a lot of practice to be able to do that. Sometimes reading, do your children lose their place? You can use your finger to move along if you want to. You can use a lollipop stick to point at the words if that's easier for some children. But sometimes they may lose their tracking. Sometimes the words may merge and they'll lose their place where they are. That's okay as well. Try and cover up the writing as you go down so it's not too overwhelming for what's coming. And have you noticed that some children can read really big words like Tyrannosaurus Rex, but they can't identify the difference between the smaller words like on and is and an? That's because those words don't have a picture. to think of the word on. You cannot conjure up a picture in your brain to try and connect it to help you to remember what the word says. Tyrannosaurus Rex is a little bit more identifiable. It's a big word, it begins with ta, but we can conjure up the picture of that Tyrannosaurus Rex in our brains, so it's easier for us to recognize the words on the page. And what about total avoidance? Are we at points in our lives where we're not picking books up at all? Because actually, to pick a book up for some children is like asking me to cook a meal. I know that I won't do a very good job of it, so therefore I'm going to avoid it. You probably avoid things as well. Just have a think of the things that you really don't like doing, just in case you don't get it right. That's how many, many children feel. So your job in the reading is to bring back the love of it, especially while we're at home at the moment. There's so many other things you can do than even just picking up a book. The most amazing deco comics are available at the moment. If you haven't heard of them, please go and have a look at them. And Rossi Stone, the author, is dyslexic himself. He's offering most of these online for free at the moment, which is a fantastic offer. But you can actually read anything for enjoyment. It might be a comic, it might be a magazine, even sharing recipes together. Whatever you can get to share that story and to share that love of words, something that's going to take away the fear of it. It's about removing the fear factor. If you are interested in some kind of books, the Barrington Stokes series books are again fantastic. They are high level books, high reading, people who enjoy high reading, but they want to have the lower sort of vocabulary. They're a bit of a mix for mixed ages. The print is fantastic. The color background of the books are fantastic. So again, have a look on those, Barrington Stoke website. And some top tips for reading together. Read a paired reading kind of rule would be that you'd have your voices right alongside each other. So your voice is there, your child's voice is there, and you read at exactly the same time. And what happens is, as that word is coming up that they think they don't know, the fear will set in and their voice will start to drop off. But if you reassure them that you're going to catch that word for them and say it for them, then you will continue to read and enjoy the story. And that's the biggest, most important thing is here, that you enjoy the story together and that love of reading starts to come back. So have your voices side by side, reading along the page together to take away any anxieties. If you are reading independently or your children are reading independently and there is a word that they absolutely don't know, give it a few seconds and tell them the word. Because again, the aim and your aim as the parent is to read the story and enjoy it together, not to stumble over the words they don't know at this point. Just practice and enjoy the story. Lots of word games, any word games you can find, any Scrabble type games, any kind of word games. Hangman's a great game for trying to work out how words and sounds are made together. It's a really good game. And talking is listening, is words, is building vocabulary, and using extensive vocabulary when you're talking makes a huge difference to a lot of children. Okay, we're doing a really, really good job so far. We've had a little look about learning preferences and doing a bit of identification on that side. And we've talked a little bit about the importance of reading, but your role in particular is to bring that love of reading back. So at the moment, we've got quite a hefty job with our weekly routine. There's a lot of work coming in. For a lot of children, it's very, very overwhelming. So what I'm going to try for you now is try and break all that down for you and give you a few tips on how to support by kind of chunking the daily tasks, if you like. And I think the most important thing for everybody that makes your life easier as well as your children is to sit down and plan it together. That plan can be really, really simple. That plan could be on a blank piece of paper or on a whiteboard that you can just cross off when you've done it or rub it out, and that becomes one of the successes. Look what you've achieved. That's amazing. Just rub it off and get rid of it. You might want to think about having a little launch pad somewhere, a little box with resources. Because I don't know about you, when you're searching for a pencil or a pen, it takes 2 or 3 minutes. Nobody can find a rubber or a ruler. and the anxiety starts to set in. We're just about to start working, but we've had to stop again because we can't find the resources that we need. So just a simple plastic tub on the table, pop in the stationery you think you're going to need, some paper and a game to go with that learning, whatever it may be, and you're ready to go, no stopping and starting. As we talked about yesterday with the auditory processing, or earlier on with the auditory processing, just 1 or 2 instructions at a time. This is what we're going to do. We're going to read and then we're going to spell, and then check for understanding. Do they know what you're just about to do? Give them the big picture and remove that anxiety. Now, this word chunking is coming up on almost every slide at the moment. The chunking is really important. Do it in tiny little pieces, 10 minutes at a time, 5 minutes at a time. And trust me, you will achieve more in 10 minutes than you will in trying to battle through something for 3 hours. Give them that visual support. If you think they're visual learners, show them what you're teaching them on the computer. Give them some sort of visual aid to go with it. If you're doing maths and counting blocks, have something in front of them to go with the words or to go with a piece of paper on the table. What about making time come alive? We talked yesterday about time and something being 20 minutes. How much does 20 minutes? What does 20 minutes feel like? Well, perhaps you could just use a little timer, a timer on the wall clock, a little timer you might have at home for cooking, and set it for 10 minutes or 15 minutes and say, look how much you've done in 10 minutes. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that incredible? And again, as I've just said, doing something for 10 minutes long, 10 minutes of solid work that you've agreed to do together is much, much better than doing something for 3 hours. Now, I've just popped something in there called Typing Club. It might be something that's only one sort of download you can use for touch typing. Touch typing is a great skill, and this might be a great idea to start. It's fun, it's full of games. There are others. There are Nessie, there is BBC Dance Mat. All of them are, those two are free. Actually, Typing Club and Dance Mat are free. But typing is a great skill to have for the future. It's great for spelling, it's great for sequencing of words, and again, it's an awful lot of fun to do as well. 10 minutes a day, that's all you need to do. That's just a bit of advice if you want to do some typing. Now, colour coding is a really good way of organising. So how about to be organised as part of your daily routine for maybe the older children or the younger children, doesn't really matter. Start popping things into coloured areas. You could put a piece of coloured paper over the top of the maths you're just about to do. So that's your red pile or your green pile. So everything's in little tiny chunks and little tiny piles, again, so it doesn't look overwhelming. And the colour coding makes things a lot more accessible for children to know what's coming next. You could then transfer that colour coding to some form of timetable for the day. Now, on here, I've literally put reading in red and maths in green, French in purple. You could colour code your folders or your pieces of papers to relate to the topic you're going to cover that day. Now, this is obviously a typed timetable. You can just simply write this again or on your whiteboard, but have an agreement of what you're going to do together. On Monday, we're going to do just those 5 questions in maths. We're going to read our school book and perhaps practice our typing and agree how much time you're going to do it for and when you're going to do it for. And when you've done it, you cross it out. What an amazing success to achieve. This may not happen every day is different, but plan with them. And this is an amazing skill to teach organisation lessons at the same time. So you're reading in there, you might just variety. You might choose some deco comics one day. You might share some recipes together one day and then go and make whatever you've decided to look at. You might do a little bit of geography on Thursday because that's coming up for the following week. But all of this is chunking, timing, and planning. And when you've done it, cross it off. What an enormous success that you've achieved together. So spelling, again, is quite a big part of some of the work you'll be doing at home at the moment. Some people might be getting a list of spelling words coming in from their school, or you may be deciding to do some spelling activities together with your children. So try some of these. This is what we're doing to make it come alive. Remember, we cannot let that spelling list sit on the table flat looking at us. We've got to take it off the table and make it come alive with something visual, something auditory, something kinesthetic, whatever your child needs, but use as many senses together. Something as simple as taking a squeezy bottle of washing up liquid outside on the wall and squeezing those letters, great for forming letters, or squeezing a sound of a word along the wall, along the floor. Chalk and sand, I think a lot of people are using at the moment, but again, very, very effective. You can just rub it out and start again, so there's no sort of chain of errors going on. So the self-esteem is high, using to draw in sand. Jump on your trampoline to do your spellings, whatever it takes. Jump on the trampoline to learn syllables. How many jumps do you need for the syllables in that word, for example? If your children like football, put your sounds or your spellings inside the goal. Can they kick the ball towards the right spelling, perhaps? Word walks are great on your activities when you're going out during the day, for your daily activities or exercise. On your word walk, talk about the words you can see, the nouns that you can see. How could you describe that noun? What does it look like? Words walks are a great way of raising vocabulary. Hopscotch spelling is another good one. I've seen a lot of children doing that one recently. Board games are just full of anything that can help education, not just Scrabble, but any kind of board games will not only lift the spirit, have fun, doing things together, but things like dominoes and playing cards are fantastic for maths. Adding the dots together, doing your number bonds using the cards, absolutely brilliant. To play cards is a really good way to learn. For your alphabet, you need to take that out, the letters, and join them together. You don't need to have anything exciting to do this. You can make your own alphabet cards, but by picking up the alphabets, placing them together, it is an activity, it's a kinesthetic tactile movement that helps you to build those words. You can do it using paper cups. You can move paper cups around the table to build words. Or a game of Jenga. You can write your spelling words on the back of the Jenga block or stick them on there. You get to pull your Jenga out and then read the word or spell the word. You can turn anything into a game. Some memory games, matching pairs. I went to market. Kim's game is where you have a box of objects, you cover it over and you take one away. Which one's missing? All brilliant for building the long-term memory and the working memory activities. And finally, but probably I would suggest most important, we have to support you as well. Supporting you is vital to all of this. We can't really exist without the amazing work you're doing with parents at the moment, and as parents rather. And Dyslexia Scotland are here for you. They are still operating their helpline. Their helpline is available to you. They are working in their homes right now as we speak. Beyond that, we've got our volunteer branches. Our branches are doing the best at the moment, our volunteer branches, to keep in touch with everybody that they know generally attends their branch meetings. We've got an adult network going on as well through Dyslexia Scotland, an employment service, and obviously the quarterly magazine that is available to members as well. So Dyslexia Scotland is here for you all of the way through this. Please call them if you need any advice or help. For the younger members, don't forget the Dyslexia Unwrapped on the website, on the Dyslexia Scotland website. Have a look at it today. On here, the children are posting support ways they can help each other and all the things that they're doing for their learning at home as well. And the Dyslexia Scotland website itself is available to you with lots of leaflets with some incredible information on there. All it remains me to do today is to thank you for all that you're doing for your children right now. We are very, very grateful at Dyslexia Scotland. Anything that you need that we can support you with, please just get in touch. But for now, thank you very much for coming along and watching.